these beliefs are so important and they give you power. Unfortunately, growing up with so many harmful social norms, many young people, and especially girls, do not have these beliefs. Next slide, please. And so that's what No Means No Worldwide tries to do. We invite the youth in our programs to reflect on and challenge harmful gender norms and expectations, and then to believe in their right and ability to defend themselves. And then there is awareness, practicing awareness, being aware and acting aware. We will go through these one by one. So next slide, please. As far as challenging harmful gender norms and expectations is concerned, we try to reflect with our youth or the youth in our programs about the expectations society has for how boys and girls should act and look, different expectations for what masculinity and femininity is. For example, boys are expected to be leaders, to have more power in their relationships and families. They're expected to be in control, not to show emotions, not seek help, and use force to get what they want. These are some harmful gender norms. For girls, for example, they're often expected to be nice, polite, weak. And so with less access to power and growing up with disempowering messages like these, many girls think that, they can't fight. They don't have the ability to fight, and they don't have the right to fight or to defend themselves. So imagine growing up listening to messages like, oh, being tough and strong or fighting back and standing up for yourself is for boys. Now, these gender norms also affect boys because they find themselves under a lot of pressure to never ask for help or show emotions and trying to use force to get what they want. So the first thing at No Means No, what we do in our programs, the first thing we do is to reflect on these things and critically think about these things and challenge these norms because they are harmful, wrong, and unfair. They create a power imbalance that leads to and perpetuates violence. So once that understanding is established, we move on to, please, next slide. Believing in your right and ability to defend yourself. We teach our youth that all humans are born with a power called the fighting spirit. It doesn't matter if you are a girl or a boy, sex and gender doesn't matter, whether you're small or big, tall, short, it doesn't matter. Everybody has this fighting spirit. And this fighting spirit gives us power to fight, to protect ourselves, to stand up for ourselves, to do absolutely anything to get to safety. And this fighting spirit only gets stronger when we believe in ourselves, believing in our power, our right to defend ourselves, our ability to protect ourselves. So these are very, very important parts of self-defense. Another thing that strengthens this belief that we are able to defend ourselves is understanding that we all have personal weapons that give us the ability to defend ourselves. Maybe not everybody has all of these weapons, but even if you don't have one, you have the other. If you don't have some, you have the others. Spirit, mind, eyes, voice, body. And we can use them to defend ourselves and protect ourselves in different ways. The other thing is to start looking at our bodies in different ways. different ways, as in looking at our body as being full of weapons that we can fight with, and then looking at the attackers' bodies as full of targets. And so thinking of, if it comes to physical self-defense, understanding that you only have to match one of your weapons to a target on the attacker's body. So these are some of the beliefs that we focus on. Next slide, please. And then the last thing is awareness, being and acting aware. And there are different levels of awareness, right? So the first level of awareness is being aware that violence comes in many forms. It's any harmful behavior that puts our mental, emotional, or physical safety at risk. And it ranges from irritating to life-threatening behaviors. We use this graph, and it's like a spectrum or the assault continuum, and it shows the full range, or the range of attacks or sexual assaults. This is where this graphic helps us explain that violence is not only physical, it can be emotional, verbal, and sexual. And it is also an opportunity, we take that opportunity to explain that it is our right to set boundaries and say no to anything that compromises our safety. Anything along that continuum. Doesn't matter if it's only irritating or annoying, it's all unacceptable. Next slide, please. Being aware that many attacks are not by strangers. That's another level of awareness. We want to be aware that many attacks are not random, and planned attacks follow a pattern. The pattern is called target, test, attack. And the attackers behave a certain way during each phase in this pattern. So being aware of the attacker's behavior and how the attackers think in the target, test, attack, it will help us recognize signs of predatory behavior, and might help prevent an attack before it happens or interrupt it. Next slide, please. So to be able to recognize those signs, we need another level of awareness. Internal awareness and external awareness. Paying attention to how we feel inside, and warning signs our intuition sends us. Every one of us has a built-in radar, and that's what we call intuition. This radar tells us when something is wrong, when a situation is dangerous or unsafe. And it alerts us by sending us some messages, and we feel them in our body. And our first line of defense is to pay attention to those messages that intuition sends us. Next is external awareness. So paying attention to what is happening around us by engaging all our senses, eyes, touch, taste, sight, sound, smell. You want to be aware really of noises, footsteps behind you, someone whispering, a door opening, someone staring at you. In order to practice internal and external awareness the right way, you need to be grounded. You need to be calm. And to do that, we practice deep breathing. That keeps us calm. It helps us regulate our emotions and be better in tune with our intuition and our senses. So now we talked about different levels of being aware. Next step is to act aware. And that means making our awareness visible and using strong, confident body language. That shows the potential attackers that you're not their idea of an easy target. So if an attacker is in their targeting phase, their testing phase, you showing that awareness might stop an attack, might prevent an attack, and might stop an attack from continuing. It is very important, and we make this clear to our youth that we train in our programs. It's very important to understand that while awareness can help prevent sexual assault or sexual violence, not being aware does not make a victim or a survivor responsible for the attack. Full responsibility lies with the attacker. And so, yes, that was the wrap up of my mental skills presentation. I will pass it over to Kirk.
Yeah, thank you, Hind. Great presentation, and I think I also love to hear presentations like this, because it really speaks to the journey that a young person goes through as they go through our curriculum, and the different levels of knowledge and skills that they're building along the way. I know the knowledge piece really resonates with me and my own experience as a young person. And I just think, if I had the full spectrum of skills that we teach through the No Means No program, I feel like I would have been that much more prepared. And I think how valuable these skills are for young people. Just to say, please add any questions to the Q&A. We can also open up for questions now. We'd love to hear your questions, comments, thoughts. We have a little bit of time still. And please do, as we finish up here, just keep in mind, we'd love to keep everyone here involved with No Means No in any way that you're able to stay involved. And joining these insights calls is one step, and we hope that you'll also share what you're learning and your thoughts, and reach out to us as well as we go forward here.
Thank you, Kirk. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the slides now. Actually, before we do that, I am just going to ask that if you don't already follow us on social media, please do. There's some links here as well. And we're going to go ahead and go into some Q&A here. Hi, everyone. I'm Molly McHugh. I'm our Director of Communications here at No Means No Worldwide, and really excited that everyone could join us today. So again, please feel free to put any questions into the Q&A. As Kirk mentioned, we also we really love doing these calls to give people some information that they might find interesting or useful or have questions about. So we welcome your input on future calls. You can also feel free to just drop something in the chat right now if there are topics you'd like to hear about in the future. So one question that's come through that I wanted to ask, and Hind, I'll ask this of you, is in your presentation, you talked about how you included boys programming, girls programming, talked about how this goes across sex and gender. I'm interested, we have a question about, are there elements of some of these mental skills that our participants, and maybe even some of the instructors that we initially train, find new, or the ones that they react to the most, whether it's boys or girls?
It depends on the context. But many of the youth find, for example, the fighting spirit activities very intimidating in the beginning. They're not used to using loud voices. They're not used to showing like really fierce facial expressions. But it takes a few drills to get it and to feel it, because it's really an experience that it's an inside out experience. It's very empowering.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Another question, and maybe this is for either of you, or maybe you both want to comment on this one. You talked a bit about making sure we don't victim blame. And so one thing that's interesting about that is the idea that it's not just girls who have to be aware, alert of their surroundings. So maybe you could talk just a little more about some of the things that how we talk to boys about these issues. You know, do we get feedback from boys like, I don't need to worry about this, or why am I learning this? You know, just maybe a little more about why it's so important that we're including boys in the mental skills as well.
So boys, just like girls, are also targets for sexual violence, and they need these skills, right? They need to practice awareness. They need to practice these mental skills and reflect on and challenge harmful gender norms. It is also very important for them to understand power and abuse of power and how it's related to violence. We also help boys practice awareness to detect and to see when violence happens in their surrounding, so that they can be active bystanders and interrupt it safely when it's safe to do so. So yeah, those awareness skills also help them assess situations and know how to intervene safely.
You're on mute, Molly.
Sorry, we did have a few questions coming in, folks who wanted to know about how they can become an instructor. My message to those folks who want to know how they can become an instructor is the first step would be to just send us a note and tell us like where you are. You know, we typically work through partner organizations, so we don't typically, you know, we're not outsourcing instructors ourselves, but there might be a match where you are. So typically, you can either send an email to info@nmnw.org. I'll put that in the chat, or on our website, there's a contact us form. That's probably the best thing to start. Okay, so we have a really good question here from one of our attendees. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I would love to hear how this topic resonates with survivors, especially because they might be easily triggered and struggle with executing the skills needed. So that's for either Hind or Kirk on that one.
How do we deal with survivors?
Yeah, just in terms of how the topic around these mental skills and
Yes, so at No Means No, we adopt a trauma-informed approach, and so we set the tone and we clarify ahead of time when a sensitive topic is about to be discussed, or a sensitive topic, sensitive skills are about to be practiced. We, of course, give them the opportunity to choose what they want to do. So if an activity is activating for them, they can choose to opt out. And we also give them a few things to do to calm down. we also are always there. Our trainers are there to help listen to participants who are triggered or activated and who want to share their experiences. And we have a referral system also to help those survivors.
Just to add to that, there is some good evidence that shows that, you know, ESD programs that are run in this way with a trauma-informed approach can be very valuable for helping survivors on their healing journey, can help them build confidence and skills themselves. So I think as long as it's delivered correctly and with great sensitivity, then, you know, it can really be actually quite helpful.
Thanks, Kirk. And all our trainers have been on this trauma-informed approach. They know how to detect signs of activation among the participants, you know, to read the room. They for example, they change the schedule and the order of training. If something is too activating for the group, then they might just decide to do it another time, or yeah.
Thank you for that context. Another question we had here in the chat is, could you speak to how you see the mental skills contributing to or interacting with the mental health of young people?
Do you want to go, Kirk?
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, the No Means No program in general, and the mental skills specifically, they really help the children build self-confidence and build self-confidence, and also for survivors to get rid of the feeling of guilt, because we explain that it is never the survivor's fault. We say it, we repeat it, we reiterate it. We also try to help them build even skills to counter victim blaming statements. So by saying that over and over in the training, that helps people heal from that feeling of guilt related to assault.
Yeah, and you know, Hin said this a few times in her presentation, but I think the word power is so important here, because it's really helping a young person recognize the power that they have. And I think in so many cases, young people feel powerless. And in a situation of mental health crisis, it's the same situation of a powerlessness. And I think it can really contribute to mental health outcomes. We don't have necessarily specific research around our program and that we can point to, you know, improving mental health outcomes necessarily, but I think we do feel like there's a definite interaction there, and it really stems to that kind of sense of control of your body and yourself. And I will say, the understanding of where to seek support is also a key factor for young people and their ability to protect themselves. And so that's another piece that is really important mental skill that you learn through the program, is where, you know, I do have support. Where are the sources of support that I have in my community? And we work with our partners to help them identify specific community resources, ensure that referral networks are in place if needed. And that's also a really key component, I think, of the mental skills in the program.
Another question we had from a participant, do you find that the trainings build community within a group of kids, such as a sense of family and intercare?
I think that we do build a sense of community. The kids attend about 10 classes together. They do a lot of, they do team bonding. They do a lot of activities together. They do affirmations. They affirm each other's powers. And that's really, it's really strong, and it builds that sense of community and belonging.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. If your question did not get answered, we will follow up. We will. You can always send an email to info@NMNW.org, and we can go ahead and follow up with that. But we just want to thank everyone for coming. We really appreciate, and it's very exciting for us to see folks from all over the world engaged in this really important topic. And as I mentioned before, we are always open to other things that you might be interested in learning from what we're doing. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.